Montana high school football season, unlike any other, concluded last weekend as 3 more state champions were crowned. Missoula Sentinel won its first title in 48 years. Laurel would not be denied a second consecutive year as the Locomotives issued a beatdown to rival Billings Central. Manhattan and Freud-Medicine Lake captured state championships for the first time in their program histories, while Drummond-Phillipsburg sent head coach Mike Cutler into retirement with his 3rd title in 4 years. Talk in the preseason in Class AA was centered around Sentinel and defending champion Bozeman. The Hawks, however, lost their season opener at Billings Senior without stud Kenneth Iden. Had Iden played, maybe Bozeman doesn't fall to the number 3 seed in the Eastern AA, but Senior was more than deserving of the conference's 2nd seed. The Broncs had the most electric player in the state, as Junior Bergen seemingly had highlight reel runs multiple times in every game. Sit back and enjoy for a minute.
But he saves his best for the 2nd quarter. Bergen keeps this one. Looks like he's headed out of bounds, but jukes 2 defenders and takes off. Then watch the hurdle at the end. Bergen showing all his athleticism to start the season. He can chuck it too. 3 plays later, Bergen to his favorite target, Jackson Berkeley. Too easy on the post. Broncs up 21-7.
Senior would strike first, though. Junior Bergen nearly breaks this run the distance, but he's tripped up at the end of the run. That would lead to this. Bergen with a little play fake and rolls out, and he throws a strike to Jackson Berkeley to put the Broncs up 7-0. Bergen would bust this one. He breaks some ankles at the line, then breaks a tackle, and then it's a foot race, and not many guys can win one against him. Bergen goes 54 yards to the house, and it's 13-0 Senior. But Iden's Bozeman squad and Bergen and the Broncs weren't able to keep pace with Billings West, which will be a monster again in 2021 as the Bears return a ton of pieces. West ran through the Eastern AA with an unbeaten record and gave Sentinel its closest game of the year by far in the title game at Dallas Stadium this past weekend. The star-studded Spartans, who are sending several players to the next level, proved to be one of the most dominant teams in recent Class AA memory. They dominated both sides of the ball throughout the year. Sentinel averaged 45.2 points and gave up just 6.9. West and Sentinel open up the 2021 season against each other, but don't be surprised if that's just a precursor to another meeting in November. In Class A, Laurel only lost 1 game all year, a 28-14 hiccup to Billings Central. The Locomotives seemed to hit another gear when the postseason rolled around, as Laurel gave up just 28 points in 3 playoff games, which included a 34-0 shutout of Central in the championship game. Laurel's Eli Abey and Jack Waddell combined to form the most lethal quarterback-wide receiver tandem in Class A this season. Waddell spent just 2 years in Laurel after moving from Livingston prior to his junior year, but his connection with Abey blossomed this year. Laurel also found other ways to get the ball in Waddell's hand, including lining him up in the backfield to receive the snap. It's no surprise the Locomotives tried to feed Waddell as much as possible. With speed like his, all it takes is 1 touch to completely flip the momentum of a game. The Locomotives are losing a big chunk of their playmakers going into 2021, but with guys like Bo Dantic and Shell Osborne still around, Laurel will likely be competing for the Eastern A crown once again. Not to be lost in the dominance of Laurel and Central in the Eastern A throughout the regular season are the outstanding careers of Miles City quarterback Carson Hunter and wide receiver Jaden Venable. Those two are all over the Class A career record books. Miles City nearly got back to its 2nd consecutive title game, but fell just short at Central in the semifinals. Hamilton proved once again that it's among the elite Class A football programs. It didn't seem like the Broncs offense missed a beat with Tyson Rostad taking over as a signal caller, and it certainly didn't hurt to have the golden hands of Jamin Clement at his disposal. Hamilton will be in good hands next season, as it will be in search of yet another regular season conference title. Manhattan won its first state title with a 23-6 win over Fairfield this past weekend, wiping away any disappointment that may have lingered from last year's runner-up finish to Eureka. The Tigers were the most dominant team in Class B this season, as they picked up victories over the Western B champ Florence and the Northern B champ Fairfield. The Tigers were led by do-it-all quarterback Caden Holgate, but he had plenty of weapons to sling it around to. Corbin Johnson proved to be one of the best two-way players in Class B, and alongside him offensively was Tate Ballard, who was previously an all-conference performer for Belgrade. That two-headed monster gave opposing defenses fits, which also opened up running lanes for the Tiger backs. The offense gets all the headlines, but defense was the backbone of Manhattan all season. The Tigers gave up 18 points to Glasgow in the semifinals, which is the most they'd allowed since their 35-29 win over Florence in the season opener. Speaking of the Falcons, They're going to be absolutely loaded next season. Watch out. Manhattan carried plenty of emotion with it throughout the postseason as senior defensive lineman Cale DeBoer was hospitalized by a serious injury midway through the year. It was only fitting that DeBoer received the program's first state title trophy on Saturday in Fairfield. What a wild year in 8-man football. Eventual state champion Drummond-Phillipsburg had its season opener canceled due to the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, but the Titans didn't miss a beat as they steamrolled their way to an unbeaten regular season and their third state championship in 4 years. It was Drummond's 8th since 2003, with 3 of those coming as part of the Flint Creek co-op with Phillipsburg. We'll dive deeper into the Titans momentarily, but let's take a second to look back at some of the top moments of the 8-man season. Runner-up Scobie put together an impressive run after losing its season opener against Westby Granora, who was making its 8-man debut. But the Spartans have a class of seniors that have played quite a few important games in their athletic career, and that had them on the cusp of their first state title since 2002. We saw Joliet's Ry Brostrup announce himself as one of the best running backs in 8-man football before a back injury in the first half against Park City knocked him out the rest of the season. One can only imagine how differently Joliet's season may have ended had Brostrup been in the lineup. Fort Benton once again made a deep playoff run as the Longhorn seniors played a ton of high-leverage football games over the past 2 years. Had it not been for a meeting with Drummond-Phillipsburg in the semifinals, I'm convinced no other team beats the Longhorns to keep them out of the championship game. As for Drummond-Phillipsburg, head coach Mike Cutler is going out in style, losing just 4 games in his 4 years with the Titans. Oh, and he's got those 3 state titles in his back pocket. Cutler will now take on a different role, that of a fan, as he will watch his son Cade Cutler play for Montana State. Cade Cutler has quarterbacked the Titans during Mike Cutler's tenure. As the 6-man season wore on, it became clear that there were a big 4 that would be competing for a state title. Those 4 were all 1 seeds and made the semifinals: Shields Valley, White Sulphur Springs, Big Sandy, and Freud Medicine Lake. Entering the year, Big Sandy was a prohibitive favorite after bringing back a load of talent from a 2019 semifinal run. The Pioneers ran into a buzzsaw in Freud Medicine Lake, though, as the Red Hawks ended Big Sandy's season. Shields Valley had a big injury derail its championship chances as the Rebels lost an all-state performer in Dylan Flatt midway through the opening round of the playoffs. The Rebels rallied to win that game, then their quarterfinal match, but White Sulphur Springs made quick work of short-handed Shields Valley. Would Flatt have been enough to make up the 41-point differential? Probably not, but the Rebels likely would have made the game much more competitive with the Hornets. That left White Sulphur Springs with the long trek to Freud Medicine Lake to play the championship game. Freud Medicine Lake ran away from the Hornets for the first state title in program history. The Red Hawks brought home hardware from the fall sports season, and don't be surprised if they're playing late in the high school basketball season too. Freud Medicine Lake will be in good hands moving forward as well. Freshman Mason Deathman commanded the offense to near perfection this year and will only get better as he gets older. Remember that name, because you're going to hear it plenty over the next 3+ years. As a whole, Montana currently has 20 players committed to play football for Montana State or the University of Montana in the 2021 recruiting class. That's without hearing from Dylan Rollins, Montana's top recruit, and Bergen. Montana last sent 20 kids to play for the Cats and Grizz in the 2019 class. It's going to be a long 9 months before football returns, but we'll certainly never forget the 2020 season. For MTN Sports, I'm Alec Bofinger.